Managed IT solutions, and welcome to my home office. It's Wednesday afternoon. Congratulations, you've made it halfway through the work week, unless you're one of the poor bastards on the West Coast, in which case you still have a couple hours to go. Uh, in case you didn't know, I've been doing a couple of videos of the past few months related to the 12 days of cybersecurity. There are actually 15 things that we like to talk about in our space that you can do to help protect your small business, your family, your home, life from the hackers out there. And I went through them in about 30 to 60 seconds. So, not a lot of information. Not really useful for people either. So, what I wanted to do over the next couple of weeks is to go a little bit more in depth with each one of those that I talked about. Today, we're going to talk about the easiest one to talk about, the most important one I think to talk about, maybe. Passwords. Everybody's got one, and they all stink. No, wait, that's opinions. So, passwords. You got them on everything you like to access online. Hopefully, you're not using the same password for all of them. Uh, a recent study came out from Verizon. They do one every year about the state of data breaches. And they had mentioned that over half the hacks occur because people have the credentials to get into the systems. That can either happen because your credentials got leaked out to the dark web. In case you don't know what the dark web is, it's basically that part of the web that isn't really indexed by the Googles and the Yahoos of the world. And you're going to have to know where you're going to find what you're looking for. And you can buy all types of stuff, passwords being one of them, credit card numbers, other information about people. There's all types of stuff on the dark web. So, anyhow, one of the reasons that you want to make sure that you're using a good password is because, well, the amount of time it takes to actually hack a password, um, it changes from year to year, of course, because computers get better, computers get faster. Um, and back in the day, 8 characters was enough. Nowadays, 8 characters, if it's just numbers or if it's just letters, is considered to be able to be hacked instantly. Um, if you do the standard lowercase, uppercase number, special character, it takes about 5 minutes to hack an 8 character password. So, complexity not nearly as important as length when it comes to passwords these days. It's much better to have a long password than a complex password. So, in that case, sometimes it's easier to string together a bunch of words. Don't do quotes. Hackers use Bartlett's quotation as well as song lyrics to run hacks against people's passwords. So that's a bad idea. Um, but the difference between, say, 8 characters with upper, lower, and numbers and symbols at being at 5 minutes versus picking, say, one that's 14 characters with all those features is a million years. Now, that's at today's technology. Of course, that could change. Um, every link that you go is a little bit better. So let's see, 8 is 5 minutes, 9 characters is 6 hours, uh, 10 characters is 2 weeks. You can see where this is going, right? 11 is 3 years, 12 is 226 years, 13 is 15,000 years, 14 is the 1 million years. And the highest one that they have listed on this matrix that I've referenced is 18 characters is 26 trillion years. So don't think you'll be around when that one gets hacked. You might be asking yourself, Seb, how do I keep up or how do I make these passwords? We always recommend getting a really good password manager. One password, we use Password Boss internally. Bitwarden's another good password manager. And all these tools have the ability to create passwords for you so that you can use them on the different websites. And of course, that comes down to you also want to make sure that you've got passwords that are different on every website that you try to access. Just because one of your passwords could get hacked, or more important, more to the point, probably your passwords could get leaked out onto the dark web. So that's not something that's in your control. It's not necessarily your fault. It's just, where you had a username and password, that site got hacked and they got all the username and passwords. So you want to make sure that you are using different ones on different sites. And the only true way to keep up with those things, unless you're a genius, is to use a password manager. So again, I use a password manager and I recommend everyone else do the same thing. Um, it comes down to keeping the bad guys on their toes, keeping them out of your stuff, and then making sure that you're using a good password. Um, every year, there's also a list, of course, of the most common passwords out there. Um, Password, surprisingly, always breaks the top 10 depending on whose list you're looking at. Another common password, of course, is 123456 or 12345678. If you're using those passwords, you need to change them to something else. Password manager, no password manager, do not use those passwords. They're the most common ones. And it all evolves from when we originally started getting passwords, having to have passwords for things. I'm talking about the ancient old days of dial-up. So it used to be, I think, 8 characters was probably the most common requirement for a password. And of course, the problem is that password is an 8-letter word. So a lot of people use password. Um, and then as requirements change and you require a capital letter, at least one capital letter, a lot of people just put a capital P, so capital PASSWORD. Um, Later on, requirements required a number. So a lot of people just did capital PASSWORD1. Yeah. So you can see where this is going. And then finally, they came out with a special character. And so what a lot of folks have done and did is capital PASSWORD1 exclamation point. So if you have any of those iterations, or if this sounds familiar to you, you're probably going to go check and look at how your passwords are doing. Back to password managers. Some of the password managers, the one we use particularly, Password Boss, will actually tell you if your password's been hacked and how many times it's been hacked, or how many times it lives out there. It will also tell you how many times you've reused that password if you pull those passwords in. Our password manager will pull your passwords in from your browsers to help you get started, so you don't have to necessarily know all your passwords ahead of time. But that does go to point out, if my password manager can pull the passwords out of my browsers, hackers can pull your passwords out of your browsers. So we highly discourage keeping your passwords in your browser. Firefox and Edge have done much better these days about encrypting that data. I do believe Chrome is also starting to do it now as well, but I would just advise not using your browser to store your personal data, or to autofill as well for your data. Again, a lot of that stuff can be hacked or taken by crooks if they were to get into your system. Just like your form fills, they can fill. Your credit cards can be form filled sometimes. You can also have your name and address, birthday, social security number, that type of information in the form fill. So make sure, besides browser password, that you're not saving form fills either. I know it takes a little extra time to fill things out manually. Hopefully you know all the answers to those questions easily enough. So take the little extra effort and manually fill those out. And if your browser asks you to cache that information or save it for you, always decline it. So that's about all I've got on passwords. Love them, hate them. You got to use them. We all have them. Now, I didn't get into MFA for passwords. It is a related topic. And it's one of the other days that we are going to be covering. Well, you know what? Whatever. I'll do it today. So to help secure your passwords even further, we recommend, and other security experts recommend, that you use MFA or 2FA, so multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication, right? That's going to be something that generates a code. Typically, it's like 6 digits. I'm sure you've run into it once or twice. You can also use multi-factor based off of an app that might do a push, which means to your mobile device, you're going to get, when you log into the site, if you have the application for that site, or you can tell it to send me a verification, and your app will pop on your phone and it'll ask you if that truly you. I know that Google does it, Apple does it, Microsoft does it. There are several other apps that will do it as well. And so that just adds another layer of security for you, so that if for some reason your password does get hijacked, compromised, they still have to have that code that generates every 30 seconds or so. They can't just use your username and password. That being said, if you do get an alert from any of your systems or websites that there's some suspicious activity, you should pay heed to it and make sure that if they got in with your password and MFA is what stopped them, you need to go change your password for that website. Don't just ignore those. They're there to keep you safe, but you know passwords can be broken. And if they have your password for one site, again, they probably have your password for some other sites. So wherever you might use that password, go ahead and change it. Keep yourself safe. Keep your stuff safe. And when it comes to MFA, we recommend putting MFA on any and all sites and apps that will let you do MFA. We prefer MFA over SMS. SMS can be hacked more easily, but MFA's got a much stronger strength to it. And when it comes to MFA, all the social media sites, I do believe, or most of the social media sites these days, do allow MFA. You might not think it's important to password protect and MFA your social media account. However, a gentleman in North Carolina a couple of years ago had his Facebook account hacked. Didn't think too much of it. Figured he'd follow up and see what was going on. Got a ton of messages from his friends. I think he got texted since his Facebook was hacked. He couldn't get into it, asking him what he was doing. And come to find out that whoever hacked his account was starting to post child porn onto his Facebook feed. So that was bad. And then, of course, Facebook blocked his account out for violating policies. And again, thought nothing too much about it. He'd straighten it out with Facebook, get his account straightened out. That was until the next day when the local county sheriffs came to his house to arrest him for distribution of child pornography. So, word to the wise, if you've got MFA available, i.e., you do on your social media sites, go ahead and enable it on all those. You don't want someone taking over your account, even if you think it's not that important. There can be a lot of harm done to you personally. Bank accounts, of course, financially. So make sure that you're enabling it whenever possible. Check the sites whenever you go there. You don't have to necessarily run through your whole list today or tomorrow, but whenever you log into a site, go and check your MFA. Go and check and make sure that you have a different password than all the rest of your passwords. Again, use a password manager. It's the easiest way to keep up with it. Most of the password managers, if not all of them, will have a Windows version, a Mac version, an iOS version, and an Android version. So you can keep your passwords on you at all times, along with your MFA codes. If possible, use a different MFA host than your password manager. A lot of password managers will have MFA capabilities built into them now. But if your password manager gets hacked, they have access to your passwords and your MFA tokens. So it's always a good idea to separate those two things out. Just a word to the wise. Some call me an expert. I call myself an expert. Some people call me other things, but that's neither here nor there. So that's all I've got to say today on this Wednesday live video. Hopefully you got some information that was handy, possibly that you didn't know before, and you will take it to heart. So next week, we will go through something else on our 12 days of cybersecurity. We knocked out 2 today, so maybe we'll do 2 next week. We'll see. Until then, I wish you all a happy rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later.